Well, hello, and we're here finally. Happy Friday. And this is a very big event today. And I wanted to thank everybody for being here and being patient. We have two NDErs here and an NDEr researcher, and there's so much energy that's going on. There's spiritual warfare behind the scenes because it must be good what's coming out tonight. Because let me tell you what, we are so excited about this Jesus panel. Let me first of all say who I am and welcome you for being here. This is the Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience and Other Phenomena channel, and I call it for short the Seeking Heaven channel. I am your host, Tamara Caulder Richardson, a 6-time near-death experiencer. I also communicate with Jesus, among other things, and with heaven. And so welcome for being here tonight. I am not really your host, but I am here to tell you, subscribe. If you're not a member, join or donate or do a super chat. I really appreciate all of these things that you do to help the channel and support me. I do this out of a passion. I was told actually by Jesus in August to create this channel, and I work really long hours, 12, 15 hours, trying to find the great people. These are great people that are here tonight, cream of the crop. So, it's important to me that you get the truth from people that I hold valuable and that have wisdom to impart. So, and that's who I like hanging around with. So I'm introducing you to my friends and peers. And saying that, I want to go ahead and introduce you to our host. We have a host tonight, and it is David Suich, and I'm going to bring him on in a second. But David Suich, he was a guest on here. So make sure you check out that episode. And I believe it's 115, but it's David Suich, and it's about he's a near-death experiencer, researcher, and he is so full of wisdom and spirituality himself, and such a gentle soul, a beautiful person that you're going to meet here. And he has written the book, as far as God Took My Clothes. I think that's the cutest title I've ever heard. So let me bring on David, and he is our host and moderator tonight.
Well, good evening, everyone. And Tamara, thank you for the honor of hosting the show tonight. We have 3 very special guests, and I think I'll introduce Rina first. Rina van de Kamp is a dancer and artistic director of the Zion Dance Company, which she created in 2002. She has over 130 choreographed works and has received several awards. She has a YouTube channel by her name, Rina van de Kamp, and that has over 120 videos. And in 1995, at age 26, she had a near-death experience following a massive stroke. Welcome, Rina. Our second guest.
All right, let me bring on Rina. Wait a minute. Hold
All
on.
right.
Rina in the house.
Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Our second guest is Sharon Milliman. She has had 4 near-death experiences. She drowned at the age of 13 during a swimming lesson. Her second NDE was in 2005 after being struck by lightning, which I think was the 4th time she had been struck by lightning. She had a 3rd NDE in 2016 following an emergency surgery, and her 4th NDE a year later due to an adverse reaction to some anti-seizure medication she was taking. She's been a guest on several radio shows and podcasts, including a show on the National Geographic Channel called Return from the Dead. And she is the author of 3 books. Those books are A Song in the Wind, A Near-Death Experience, Whispers in the Wind, A Poetic Journey of the Soul, and A Rose from Heaven. Welcome, Sharon.
All right, here we go.
Okay, hi. Sharon's with us. Hi, Sharon.
Thank you
for joining us tonight. And of course, many of you already know Tamara, one of my favorite people in the whole world, aka the Southern Belle Medium. She mentioned her YouTube channel, Seeking Heaven, has over 140 videos. She's had 6 near-death experiences, and she channels Jesus. I was not a believer of that till she channeled Jesus for me, and I got some information that only Jesus himself would have known. It's completely legit. She's very good. She currently does medium stage shows for Women's Expos. She's the president of the Charlotte, North Carolina chapter of IANS, International Association of Near-Death Experience Studies. She's been a keynote presenter at the Edgar Cayce Center, and she is an ordained Christian minister. Thank you, Tamara. Okay, so if I need to get married, could you actually marry me? Do you have the ability to do that?
Well, I actually could marry you. Yes, I married my cousin to a fella, and so yes, I can do that. It was a beautiful experience. It was lovely. So yes, I can marry you.
Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about some of the experiences of heaven and what Jesus is like. And so I'd like to start out by maybe asking each of our guests, start out with Rina. What was your first experience as you arrived in heaven? What's the first thing that happened to you when you got there?
The first thing I remember, because I only remember different pieces, and I don't know that I have them in like an actual order as far as what happened first, second, third, I know what happened last because it's very distinct. That one I got. But one of the things was my angel taking me around and walking me through just this beautiful, amazing place, with everything, with the colors so vibrant and the smells and the sounds. And that was the first thing that I remember.
Now, you mentioned the colors and the senses. And this is a question, I guess, for all three of you. Mm-hmm. Were your senses heightened? Did you see colors that don't exist here in this world?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. There's no way to even explain it because we don't have English words to put words on it. So absolutely. Colors are far more intense. What you're hearing in sound is more intense. I don't know if it's a different range, it's different. It's just different. It's more grand. It's just more, it's more epic. It's just so big. It's just,
I like epic. That's a beautiful. Heaven is epic. That should be a book. That's awesome. So the colors, I thought the colors had a broader spectrum, and I'm a trained designer and visual designer and marketer, and so I went to art school, so I know about art and colors, and that's one of the reasons I dress so colorfully. I love colors, and it was beyond the colors that we know here. Everything was more vibrant and more real, which led me to think that is the real place, heaven, not here. And this is the fake place. It's a playground. It's a lab class. It's a learning situation, whatever you want to call it. But I felt it was the real place. And I also felt merged with everything, not just a sense of oneness. I mean, yes, of course, but it vibrationally, I was vibrating at the energy level of the grass that was all moving and following Christ, at the flowers that were following, at the clouds that were following, at the tree leaves that were following him. But we were all in the vibration. It's almost like if you had to give a tonality to the nature, it was like, we worship you, we love you, we worship you, we love you. It was just like, oh, it was just this, and that sounds corny, but it was a vibrational oneness of love and feeling as though you were home.
What about you, Sharon? What did you experience with the senses?
My senses were extremely heightened. It was like I could see all the way around without turning my head. I could see far distances in very great detail. The colors were so rich and vibrant, and there's no English words to describe what the actual color was. But the pinks were pinker, the reds were redder. And when you were talking about vibrational sound, I actually heard music. And it was big music, and everything, the leaves had a vibrational sound. The grass had a vibrational sound. The water, that was trickling over the rocks, and the rocks had a different vibrational sound. And when you put all of those vibrational sounds together, you hear the most magnificent orchestra, big music, stringed instruments of every kind, horns, drums, bells, piano, just everything. And everything in heaven was singing praises to God. It was the most magnificent thing I've ever heard or seen.
Yeah, Don Piper, he was a pastor who died in a car accident, and he has a book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. He stated that the music of heaven was his most beautiful memory. He heard this beautiful music, and he said he still remembers it today. And many people have mentioned what you said. You have 360-degree vision. You don't have any blind spots. You can see all around. And the colors, one man said he was staring at this angelic being and noticed that this angel had over 80 primary colors. So we have 3 primary colors here, yellow, red, and blue, that a mixture of those three primary colors make up all the colors we see. There's over 80 in heaven. So it certainly is a buffet for the senses. But you have all met Jesus in heaven. And I just want to hear from, start with Tamara, and tell me, what was Jesus' personality like? Some people have mentioned he has a great sense of humor. You feel very comfortable around him. You feel like you can say anything to him. I remember one guy I interviewed said, I called Jesus crazy. I told him he was crazy. So tell us about what his personality and maybe how he was different from what the religions portray Jesus as. Let's start with you, Tamara.
Thank you, David. Well, it's because I didn't really have a religious per se background. I will say I'm really grateful that I had my grandmother, who was a lovely woman, she was a very devout Christian Presbyterian that loved Jesus, but it was more spiritual to her. She has just reams of information, of beautiful letters she would write to Jesus and prayers. It's very, very beautiful. So I kind of feel like Howard Storm, like, I'm glad I knew that. So later on, I called on him because really we did not have that. We were not allowed to talk about religion or anything. So I didn't really have any preset ideas and so forth about Jesus. But to me, who he is and who he still is, he is exactly who he says he is. That's for sure. But to me, personality wise, I think it's like, the way I want to say this initially is, it's first of all, it's like us, we're going to tailor who we are a little bit to the person we're talking to not talk about things they don't want to, or laugh with them when they want to. And he is very much the same way. But to me, in my personal relationship and how I saw him there, is that he knows my every essence. He knows my every word before I say it. And so he's already laughing before it comes out. If I say something silly, he's already laughing about that, and he'll shake his head, but he interacts. I mean, he's an interactive Jesus. He's not dead. His consciousness is not dead. I saw him in person not that long ago, 2017. It was July 17th, 2017. And I think the reason he did it that day is because I'm really bad at remembering numbers, like my own anniversary and birthday. So if I forget anyone's, I'm so sorry. You're like, that's not intentional. And so my husband always says, what's our anniversary? So he did it on a number I could remember, July 17th, 2017. And he was in the flesh, and he can do those kinds of things. I didn't really ask. I was kind of shocked, but he can do those things. But he smiles a lot. He has beautiful teeth, beautiful coppery skin. He's really not like anyone I've seen. He smiles with his eyes. To me, he comes across sometimes sarcastic, because it's a part of our sense of humor, being human. So when I'll say something, he'll kind of smile back and look, and he's winked at me before. He'll go, really? I think you already know that. Or he'll pick with me. And he did that earlier today. He's like, why are you stressing? You know that I have this. He said, why don't you give me the will? Jesus, take the will. And so he picks and he kids with me. He's even come through dancing with me to lighten the mood, and with cowboy boots. And he knows what you like. He knows, I've had spiritual sessions with people that I had. One was with a Jesuit, and he came through telling the guy about what kind of the woman wanted. He was interested in finding a wife. Jesus came through and said, I'm working on it. And it described exactly the kind of woman that he liked, which made the guy very embarrassed. But he knows what we like. He knows about all kinds of love, romantic love, friendship love, parental love. And he's just so blended with us. He's not a separate part of us. He is us. And to me, he is who he says he is. He's not just an ascended master. He is the Messiah.
Wow, he's blended with us. I like that. When you channel Jesus, he certainly told me exactly what I needed to hear. It's like he knows me better than anybody in the whole world. Thank you. Sharon, what was your impression of Jesus?
My impression of Jesus is that he was very compassionate, and he just oozed out of every cell in his physical. I saw him physically, like Tamara did, and multiple times, and he oozes this love that's just beyond words. And I learned that he was the healer of hearts, and the listener of hearts and the healer of hearts. And so he was able to talk to me and heal me in ways that it blew my mind, because I never said a word. I never said one word to a living soul about anything. And yet when he visited me, he said exactly what I needed to hear to heal pains in my heart that I never shared with anybody. And he does have a wonderful sense of humor. And when he he smiles, he has dimples. And he just like, Tamara was saying, he had beautiful skin and just magnificent to look at. But his personality made him even more beautiful, if that's even possible.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. This is sort of exciting to hear these descriptions, having not known him myself. I know at some point I was up there and I knew him, but I have no memory of that here in the earthly life. Rina, tell us about your interactions with Jesus. Did you see him during all 4 of your NDEs, or just on a couple? Or
Well, I've only had one NDE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's okay. So there's a lot of ways I can go with this. I'm just trying to tap in to see where he wants me to go. But in my experience of him in my NDE was one aspect. But after I came back, my relationship with him was in a whole new level that I've never experienced ever. And I don't know if that's because of the NDE, or I have no idea. But he and I talk all the time. And I've had experiences with him that are, it's like when he's talking to you, there's and please forgive me, because sometimes my words are just lackluster and they're not sufficient. And I don't know if part of it is because of the brain damage, or part of it is because I'm just a physical person. I'm a dancer, so communicating sometimes just sucks. I'm not sure what the deal is, but when he's speaking with you, there's a wholeness to it, and you're inside the wholeness. Mm-hmm. It's like you're in him, just as he's in you. He knows everything, and he'll ask you things and ask you statements and say things to get you thinking. And you start, and he really like it grips how you've considered things or how you've thought about things, and so that you start seeing things spiritually. And it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. And there is so much love with it, and there's never any condemnation. And sometimes he's just told me, he says, "Don't you think I've got this?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, excuse me, I'm stressing out, and there's really no reason." It's like, "I got this. Let me have it." Because when I'm stressing over it, I'm taking it from him. And there's nothing he can do about it. So it just, it's profound, and it's amazing if you just let him. That's all you got to do. Just let him.
Yeah, he certainly is amazing. And, having never had an NDE, but just having communication, I got a sense of that wonderful sense of humor. I remember driving back from the airport one day, and I was just frustrated with all these aggressive drivers, and I got lost, and I was really frustrated, and people were being super aggressive, making it very difficult to get where I was going. And I said, "Jesus, I get really tired of these people and how poorly they treat each other." And he said, "Well, how do you think I feel?" So, I mean,
Totally.
like a sense of humor, like, well, I tried to come to earth and say, we need to love each other and not be judgmental, and they tortured and killed me. And he joked around about it. It kind of shocked me. Yeah. And he's just got a real lightheartedness. And I recall one near-death experience you're saying, when you're with Jesus, it feels like he makes you feel like you're the most important person in the whole universe, and that all of creation was just designed to make you the most beautiful child of God that you can be. And he's so not judgmental. I even recall one man who was talking with him, and he dropped an S-bomb. So he said a bad word, and he said to Jesus, am I in trouble now? And Jesus' reaction shocked me. He laughed and he said, oh no, it's only a word, son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So quite an amazing individual. I'm looking forward to meeting him again.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon. I've got plenty of work left to do here. So, Tamara, I'd like to ask each of you, what one thing stood out the most in your near-death experience or your near-death experiences that you brought back with you that really helped you in this life? Was there one certain idea or concept or emotion that really helped you, really enlightened you and made things better when you came back to this world?
You want me to answer first?
Yeah, I'd like to start with
Okay.
that.
So two things came to my mind. I mean, my goodness, it could be so many things. But if it was, I guess, two things that came to my mind. Number one, before I came back, I had, the 6 near-death experiences, the very big one when I was 5. And I had been going through, and Tamara, if you listen to Spiritual Awakenings International.org under events, you can see me tomorrow free at 1:00, but you got to sign up. So that's, I'm going to talk more about this. I'm not going to talk about it now, but there was a lot of sexual abuse that was going on. I did not want to go back. I argued with him, not in a mean way. I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I want to be here with you. And I saw children playing and I wanted to just, they're here. Why can't I stay here? And he said no. And I think what helped me that I know now, some things, how you don't know what the importance till later on. But he said, I'll send you one person that will always be with you. So the first one was my husband. And I was 19 when I met him. The reason I was so young is I think I would have been really damaged if I had been like 30 something. I met somebody, I would have been damaged. And his love reversed that. So one, my husband. And the second one, when he talked about the simple things in life. And I'm still just getting that. It's the simple things. And even when I do spiritual readings, it's always the love of and people talk about not their degrees and not all of this, but they talk about touching their first newborn, touching their hair, the giggle of that, because that's a moment gone. I mean, then they grow up. You can't get that back. Or touching a pet. There's so many people get very emotional about their pets they used to have. So it's about gentle, sweet moments. And I think that's the message. Is not the really big stuff in spiritual, going being on a Tibetan mountains with Tibetans, in a mountainside. And it's about love and the small things and the small acts of kindness. And Jesus told me that, but I'm still trying to understand that lesson and be kinder to myself. So, and we count. And if we didn't count, we wouldn't be here. He'd have something else for us to do, but we have something here to do. We all have a mission, and it is to be the love we were created to be.
I like that. Be the love we were created to be. Yeah, I think I truly believe at the core of every human being, even those who are acting out in darkness, and we might call them evil, the most narcissistic people that seem to have no love. I think at the core of that human being is the love of God. At the core of everything, every flower, every plant, every animal is the love of God. Rina, why don't you tell us what experience really stood out and probably the most important thing you brought back with you that helped you here?
Well, I mean, for me it was when the Lord asked me to come back. Well, he didn't ask me to come back. Let me rephrase that. I said that wrong. He told me, he said, you have a choice. He said, you can stay or you can go back. He said, the choice is yours. And I pondered about it. And in my heart, I could sense that if I didn't go back, I would hurt his heart. And I wasn't willing to hurt his heart. I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to hurt my Jesus. I'm not doing that. I'm not hurting him. And so I'll go back. And so with that, in the coming back, it's always been very, this is going to get me all weepy. It's always been very important to me. And I'm not perfect at it. I mess up like everybody else. But really showing his love and being helpful to people, and how best can I actually support someone and help them in whatever it may be. It may be something simple. It may be, closing somebody's door, if whatever, it may be something simple, but it's always been about being back to help people in whatever that looks like and however he seems to be leading me.
Okay, thank you so much. Sharon, what are your thoughts?
And all of my near-death experiences, and there was 4 of them, I was never given the choice to come back. And so I came back with this feeling that I got kicked out of heaven. And I asked him, why, why did you kick me out of heaven? What did I do? Do I smell bad or what is it that makes you keep sending me back here? Because I really wanted to stay. And this is when I was taking care of my mom. She had Alzheimer's and I was her caregiver. And he appeared in the kitchen, and I never told a living soul that's how I felt. And he told me, he said, you think I cast you away from me when you were with me in heaven, and that's so far from the truth. Everything that's happened to you in your life has happened to prepare you for this job I have for you. And I was like, well, what is that? And he said, when you're tired, when you're weary, when you're frightened, when everything is going wrong, when you can't take another step, I want you to give all of that to me, because I'm strong enough to handle it. And when you are at your weakest, I am at my strongest. So just give all of that to me, and I want you to love, because that's what you do best. So that's what I want you to do. And so he was, like I said earlier, he was a reader of hearts, and he is the healer of hearts. And I never said a word, but he knew exactly what to say. And he was the same way in heaven, and I didn't want to leave. I was like, and he's the one that led me to God. And that's what he does. He leads people to God, to the Father. He did that when he was living, and he still does that. He is living. I didn't mean that he's dead. I meant that when he was walking the earth, he led people to the Father. And he's doing that even now, today, still doing that. And his love is just beyond words. It's hard to put it into words without getting weepy. So
yeah, beyond words. I've heard this from many of the people I interviewed. They say things like, imagine the strongest love you've ever felt and multiply it by about 500, and that's what it feels like. Or one guy said, imagine the 100 happiest moments of your life and put them all into one moment. You still don't come close. And Sharon, many people have mentioned the fact that some are given a choice to be sent back. I've heard a little over 1,000 near-death experience testimonies, and some are given a choice. They say your work's done, but you can stay here if you want, or you can go back and do more work. And others are sent back by force. And everybody who visits heaven, everybody's there. They all want to stay there. It's just such an amazing, wonderful place. Even a mother with a newborn baby will protest and say, oh, no, they're going to take care of my baby. The baby will be fine. I'm staying here. And nobody wants to come back. But, I've come to understand there's certain things we experience and certain things we do here in the physical realm that we can't do and we can't experience in the heavenly realm. And the analogy I like to use is, imagine, I've been to Disneyland, I don't know, 100 times. I lived a couple of miles from Disneyland. So everybody who came into town wanted to go to Disneyland, and it was boring for me. I'd been on all the rides, I'd seen everything, and, I just didn't like it, the crowds, the expense and all that. But what if I could go there as an innocent child with no memory that I'd ever been to Disneyland? That'd be a different experience. So we experience things in a sort of ignorant innocence here in the physical plane that allow us to have experiences of growth that I think can't happen in the heavenly realm. And so listening to all these experiences and people being sent back and so forth, I realize the importance of physical life here. And, I honor everybody here, that we're all brave souls for coming down here. I've heard that Earth is the most difficult place in this galaxy to incarnate into. It's only for the specialists, the daredevil souls who really want to take on a big challenge. So, the people out there who are struggling, there's a reason for that. You're taking on the biggest challenge of incarnation there is just by being here. I'd like to ask about.
Excuse me, David. I don't want to interrupt your thought process, but I don't see you on the screen. Do y'all not see him?
Don't see him.
I don't see him.
Yeah, you went away. And we can hear your voice, but we
Okay.
can't see you.
Let me
So
see,
it is live, guys. This is live. This is what you get.
This
You
is
should
what
have
you
seen
get.
us beforehand.
All right. So
This is very calm, cool, and collected beforehand. It was like a 3-ring circus before we got for this.
I'm going to try hitting my computer with a ball peen hammer and see if that works. That's the first thing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, oh boy.
You
All
want
right,
to? Well, why don't you do? Well, while you're doing your little camera, figure that thing out. You're working on that. Why don't Sharon? I think what's a funny thing I want to mention. It's just a funny little thing, even though it's sacred. But when I called you and met you, and he's probably going to pop on and pop back off. But when I met you, I called. Well, I hit it off with both you and Rita because you're just sisters of Jesus, and I just love you both dearly. It's just like Christmas talking to both of you. I get so excited. But when I talked to you the first time, Sharon, and I didn't know you, I talked to Rina a few times. We kept talking, and finally we did our interview because we kept talking. But when I talked to you, Sharon, I was surprised how many things in common we had. And even with the Jesus thing, and he showed up wearing the same outfit that he had for you. I could not believe that. And then I thought, I was like, that's crazy. I mean, because it was a modern outfit. Tell everybody how he came to you was it the kitchen? Because
it was when I was taking care of my mom.
Yeah.
I put her down for a nap, and I was mopping the floor to try and decompress from the hardness of Alzheimer's. But anyway, so I'm mopping the floor, and I hear this kind of clearing the throat. And I turn around, and there he's standing, and he's just like this with his arms crossed over his chest and his feet crossed at the ankles. And he had on these brown khaki-like lounge pants. And he had this beautiful white tunic shirt, no buttons or anything. It was just, and he was just leaning up against the counter, and I noticed his feet, and I thought, oh my God, he's got the most beautiful feet for a man that I've ever seen in my life.
I thought so too. They didn't look like caveman feet or anything. They looked gorgeous.
And I thought, and I've had people ask me, did you see scars or anything? And I said, no, I didn't go over and lift his pant leg up to look for scars or anything like that, because I knew who he was,
Right.
And he was so beautiful. But yeah, he was wearing the same exact thing that when you saw him, he was wearing.
Isn't that odd? Because I don't know how we were just kind of like, what? Well, I had to actually move my interview. I mean, and the fact we both have had the Native American experience, and I told you I have this Native American around me that's a guy that has a white wolf and an eagle. And so I was asking, what do I call you? And he said, you can call me White Wolf or Wise Wolf. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of like Wise Wolf, but we both have that background also in the family. I thought that was interesting. We both have had an NDE with drowning, pneumonia, and a pill reaction. How weird is that? Is that weird? Did you know that, Rina?
No, that's weird.
It's weird.
Twin sisters from a different mother.
I call it sisters from another mister.
Well, that works too.
Oh, my Rina, you're too much. And I'm going to bring David back on, but before I forget, I have the books down below of Sharon's books you could buy on Amazon. She's amazing. And then Rina, you're getting just a little bit of this. She has her own channel on YouTube. It's a ministry, and she's very wide open, and I like that because you're honest. You don't have to agree with her, but she's honest and direct. She's very skilled at scripture, and so some people might not like that. That's cool. But I love the fact you're very honest and genuine and never misguide people. You come from your heart. So I'm going to bring David back on. Yeah, Jesus is some good stuff. Yeah. Isn't that weird? The same outfit down to the detail, same outfit. Crazy. Okay, you're back.
Right, I'm back. I blame Bill Gates for that. If I ever meet him in person, I'm thinking I'm going to punch him right in the throat.
Don't even get me going with meeting that guy.
This is the least of what. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you get 3 NDErs together or 4 NDErs together, and the computers go.
It's true. The energy. goes, well, we had to handle that in the beginning because, and poor David was on trying to handle and start this thing. So thank you for waiting, because he was trying to help it. And with between, all the NDErs, and then then you got women, and technology was going crazy. So thanks. So we'll just work. This is live. This is part of being live. Isn't it exciting? All right, David.
It's like the days of old with live TV, where something happened, you just had to roll with it, right?
Yeah, we're rolling with it.
All right. So, Rina, I want to pose another question to all three of you, but I want to start with Rina. So when I've interviewed people, they are generally completely different people when they come back from their near-death experiences than they were before. One man, the first near-death experience I ever heard, he was an atheist and an art teacher. He became a minister in Methodist Church. Another man who was a billionaire gave up all his ties to the financial industry to become a qualified family counselor. A man who was involved in organized crime gave up all his ties to organized crime and became a counselor for delinquent youths.
Beautiful.
And a policeman didn't want to carry a gun anymore, and he became a high school teacher. Well, if you're in LA, you probably still have to carry a gun, but hopefully he was in a good way where he didn't have to. So, Rina, what were some of the positive after effects that you noticed when you came back? How did it change you as a person and the way you dealt with friends, family, society in general? What personality changes did it cause?
Well, for me, I had a twofold personality change. One was the NDE. The other was I had a stroke and I had massive brain damage. So I was changed from that also. And everybody's told me that, that has known me from, prior to that time and after, is that my personality is completely different. So, that I believe is the stroke. But as far as I know myself, how I handle things and deal with things, I always, I just tap in to Jesus. I just tap into him. When stuff's going down, stuff's getting weird, I'm having weirdo stuff show up, because like this, before we got on with that mayhem, you know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, and I'm tapping in and I'm like, nope, and so we prayed about it, took care of it, and it was done. So the way I live my life is all about how the Lord says to handle things. And so, there's times when before I learned how to do this, stuff would come up and I would just get pissed off, angry, whatever, at people. And the Lord's reminded me, he's like, it's not them. And he would start telling me what was going down. And I'm like, yeah. And then I started taking authority, like the Lord says to do it, and get done with that junk and get that out of the way. Or if something else was the root cause, he would tell me what was going down, and I would either remedy it, because if it was an action of mine I needed to clean up and repair, then I would take the action that Jesus told me to take. So it's really changed from me going in my own ideas and living life to always going to Jesus. I'm like, okay, what's the 411? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? You know what I mean? And that's where I come from now with everything.
You get a lot of guidance. That's awesome.
Thank God I don't have to figure it out on my own. I was making a mess of everything. Give me a break.
Well, it sure is wonderful to have an all-powerful, all-knowing guide to kind of help us through the difficult times in life. I'm grateful for the communication I get. Sharon, how has it helped you, or what changes have you seen in your life after your 4 NDEs?
I changed completely as a person after, I had one when I was 13, and I don't know. It was so long ago. But after my second one, after being struck by lightning 4 times, I know that physically the lightning changed me at the cellular level, molecular level, or whatever. But not only did I change physically, but inside I was no longer the person people thought. I was always the one who was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to make everybody happy and making nobody happy, at least of all myself. And I was, trying to take care of my kids, and my house had to be spotless, and everything had to be just perfect for everybody. And after I came back from my second one, I mean, I could care less if you could eat off the floor or not. You know, I wanted nothing more. Well, I came back in what I call the pink bubble, and that's that oneness. You know, that oneness that I had. It was like I have 1 foot here and 1 foot still there, and I could, you know, see colors around people and color. You know, when we were talking about people, heaven has many, many, many colors. Well, I could still see all of those colors. And, you know, and with the visitations and everything, it was like, I was so not of this world. You know, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. And I was definitely not of this world. And people thought I was crazy. They would tell, your skin is glowing and you're floating 3 feet off the ground. Let's pull you back down. You know, people were, you know, some people really liked it and some people did not like it. So there were big, huge changes. But I loved everyone and I loved everything, and you couldn't hurt me if you tried. And I learned a lot about forgiveness and saying yes to God every day. That's recommitting every day. It's not just a one-time thing. And just, you know, I do, when things go wrong, sometimes if it's big stuff, I will allow myself 15-minute meltdown, and then I go into prayer, and within minutes, it's gone. The peace is back. And so
it's really added some stability to your life, and you sort of feel like you've got that connection to the divine more than before. Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow. Tamara, same question for you.
Okay. Okay. Repeat the question, because I want to, I just, thanks. If you could repeat the question. I was doing the chat too. Go ahead.
Well, I think it might be a little different for you because
okay.
Since you were young, you've sort of had this divine connection, and your 6 NDEs kind of just solidified that. But sort of your positive changes in your life afterwards, changes in the way you viewed things, the way you operated, the way you dealt with people, the way you saw things, your perspective on life.
Yes, and you know what? I do remember what I was going to say on that, because I was listening to Sharon too. Okay, so it was a little different because I didn't know I was different. You know, I had the prenatal and then 3, 4, 5, 10, and 28. So I was already in this. I was between two worlds, literally my NDEs. I was bilateral. I was different places. You know, I was in this world, the other world, this. So I've kind of always lived in this. That's normal to me, to be able to talk to heaven. And plus I miss it. So I like talking to it. So, you know, that's kind of where I live. And when I sleep, boy, I don't sleep. I wake up exhausted. So I always thought that was normal to me. But I think what happened is because I worked really hard to forget talking to loved ones that I saw in heaven. They come around and go, oh, your grandma's right there. She loves you. She's got Mother Mary with her. I forgot all that. Go away, go away, go away. Go all this strange stuff. Just please just go away. Oh, I know you did this and that. Oh my God, please. I don't want to know this. And then I worked so hard, and then I went off to college. When I got out of the home at 18, it was kind of like, and I mean, I had some good moments, but it was a lot of abuse and a lot of mental abuse and just stuff I saw, not just to me, but in the household. It was not positive. So when I left to go to college, it was freedom. So I wanted to be like everybody else. I want to know what it felt like. And I thought, hey, they don't know me. They don't know I'm strange. But then later on, I found out recently people in college a couple of them go, oh, we knew you had abilities and you were like that. I'm like, great. I did a horrible job disguising myself. But I tried to be normal and have a life because I felt like I deserved it. So for me, it was remembering. And I think when I started getting past life regression, I popped out of my body and I remembered all of my NDEs at once. And then it started changing me. And so what I think people don't understand is it's, and I have this ability that I could go to someone that never even heard of this topic and go, you had a near-death experience and blah, 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 blah. And then they'll go, yeah, I always wondered about that. I'm like, well, you might want to wonder more because a lot of times people don't remember because it's an odd place. Parents sometimes don't talk about what happened. It's like, oh, let's not talk about that time little Jimmy fell off the bike, had a concussion. It was not, they don't want to talk about it sometimes and they don't remember. So it comes out later in life, just like things that we know, it's still coming out. It comes out when the Lord wants us to know certain things. And so the Lord was ready to call me into service. I'd been in an ad agency role. I did really well. I mean, I worked hard at it, really hard. But when it was time, oh, there's a motorcycle somewhere. Is there a motorcycle somewhere?
Hang on. I think let me make sure this is shut.
Okay. All right. So I was like, I don't know if that's a background. Woo, going fast with Jesus. And so sound effects. But it does turn on sometimes more so later in life where you see it. And when I was called in for service, he pulled on my heart. And I remember 12 or 14 years crying. I literally so hard-headed. I would not listen to Jesus. I would not. And it does not go well. God tried to talk to me, but I didn't understand. And Jesus said, look, this is what he's trying to say. I totally wouldn't understand God. And so this is what they wanted me to be, that spiritual person that I am now. I was not that. I was part of this world, more of that. So it comes out later. We're eternal spiritual beings. So there really isn't any time. So, where's the beginning? Where's the middle? Where's the end? We just are.
Oh, yes. And I truly believe we've always existed. I mean, most people believe in an afterlife, but less people believe in a pre-life. And I believe we always existed and we always will because we're part of God who's eternal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And all three of you mentioned, the idea that when you talk about these things, you have these experiences, you come back a different person, you have a different perspective on life. Sharon, sounds like you're seeing auras, and Tamara, you've channeled, and Rina, you've had your supernatural experiences here too as well. And people, because it's not real common yet, people tend to view that as crazy. And for any of the viewers out there watching this who have had an NDE, I want to talk about that issue for a second. Over 500 years ago, everyone, the most educated people, the poorest peasants, were aware of one fundamental truth, and that was the earth is the center of the universe.
Sorry, go ahead, David.
Okay. It sounds like there's some sort of evil.
I got it. Okay. Again, we're live. This is live. It's just anything can happen. I muted Rina with the lawn blower thing for a second. Go ahead, David.
Oh, okay. All right. So, over 500 years ago, when Nicholas Copernicus first, worked out the math in his book on the revolution of the celestial spheres, and said, no, the Earth is going around the sun at 90 miles a second. Everyone thought he was crazy. He had to delay the publishing of his book until after his death to avoid being excommunicated by the Catholic Church. And in 1841, when Richard Owen found these large bones and teeth and suggested the idea that there were large giant lizards he called Dinosauria that once roamed the Earth, he was laughed at. Everybody thought it was a hoax. And even as late as 1912, when Alfred Wegener suggested the idea that the continents are slowly drifting over the surface of the planet, he was laughed at by the scientific community. So even though people may call near-death experiencers strange and odd and crazy for the things they believe, it's only a matter of time as humanity's consciousness increases that these are going to be ideas accepted by the general populace. They're going to realize there is an all-powerful creator. We're his children. We're immortal. And many people, as you three, have visited heaven. These are going to be accepted truths in the future. We just have to wait for culture to catch up with the people who are out front, sort of pioneering the new ideas. So be brave, everyone out there. Don't be shy and speak about your experiences.
True.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things you saw in heaven, or some of the experiences you have that really stood out. Tamara, let's start with you. Were there any things that kind of took you by surprise, or something you saw or something that was said that really shocked you, that was a real eye-opener, or something different?
Well, gosh, that's a loaded question. Okay, because at the, I want to stay in the field and the pasture, and I want to stay with Jesus, and I want to stay and walk around, and I want that moment to last forever. I'm talking about now still. It's amazing. But I knew I couldn't go past this stream. I couldn't go past the other side. I couldn't go past it. And we sat in front of this. He said it was a big tree. Now I believe it to be the tree of life. See, I didn't know about those things. So, it was kind of a shock. I love how Spirit and God gives me evidential things like, oh, that was a tree of life. But he said, we can sit here, but we can't eat from this tree, but we can talk. And I was like, okay. I wasn't thinking about eating from the tree, but it looked like cherry blossoms with little grapes on them. And I love that moment. I love blending with the essence of him. I love being in his warmth and his embrace. I mean, it is a supernatural love. It is really, really good. I have been other states where I was just not male, not female, but just spirit. I was not male and not female. I couldn't remember my name. I couldn't remember my life when I had that pill reaction, and my furniture decomposed into lines, and then I was like in the Milky Way, and I was just, and I was just observing. I just was. So I've been in different states, not lower level states. I don't like that. I don't like people like that on earth that are lower level negative people, but I just observed. I've also observed other planets and other things. So they're different dimensions. So that was kind of that's what I mean, a loaded question. I like the one where Jesus is. I don't care where he is. I don't care if he's on Orion or where he is. I just want to be with him. I don't care if he's on Venus. I mean, I don't, but I love that place. It looks like paradise. But the thing is, what we don't realize is that we can right now bring him. See, when I get his messages, I have him. I'm just going to tell you, don't judge me, guys, watching this, but this is my love for him. I have him stand right beside me. See, I don't let other people do that. I let him be right beside me, but I let him come on in. And the Holy Spirit, I let him come. Nobody else, nothing else. I'll just talk to him over here because I see dimensional. I see different things, but I'll let him overlay me and blend with me. That's how I've done deliverances. I let him blend. He's the only one, and it feels good. And that's usually how I do my healings quick for myself and other people. I let him not just get close. It feels good. I let him come all up inside and blend with my spirit. And he is still living. So I can still experience those things I did in heaven. They're not as intense, but they can be close. I can get really high. My thing that my cousin always kid about is they ain't no high like the Most High because it feels good. And you don't have to have an NDE to have that. You can experience it because you are spirit. You are a child of God. We've just forgotten. We are love. We are creation. We're part of creation. We're part of God. How can we not experience this? All this stuff is a bunch of malarkey. It's just a distraction away from our true source of who we are and the love that we are and where we came from. Do I get an amen?
Amen to that. What about you? Did you experience anything or learn anything that really kind of shocked you or surprised you that you went, wow, I didn't expect that?
I would say two things. One is I absolutely agree with what Tamara said completely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely 100%. Yes, with what Tamara said. And then as far as an experiential thing of being there, the one thing that I just did not expect was when my angel took me down to this stream that was by my house. And I didn't even know my house was there yet. He was just taking me to the stream. He said, here, I want to show you something. And he walked me down into that stream, and the grass is amazing with the flowers. And like Sharon said, you can hear the vibration, the harmonic, and the flowers are singing, and it's amazing. And then along the what do you call it? The stream bed itself, as it comes up a little bit, there's gemstones in it amidst the flowers. And then as it goes into the water, the gemstones and the flowers continue in the water. And I just thought, whoa, that's just so beautiful. Just the color, the vibrancy, the harmonic of them. It's It's amazing. And then when my angel said, come on. And I was like, huh? And so he walks into the stream and then he sits down. So he's underneath the water. And I went, okay. Because I knew that's what he wanted me to do. And I was like, huh, okay, I'm going to get down in the water. Well, first of all, the water doesn't feel like water. It's like thicker than air. And it's thicker than air, but it's not like mud. It's different. So I go to sit down in the water, and then he starts talking to me underwater. And I'm like, so I was like, I'm like, why am I holding my breath? To myself in my mind. And then I realized, wow, I said, we can speak to each other underwater, and I can breathe underwater. I'm like, this is so cool. So that just was a cool experience.
Well, that you are the third person who's reported going underwater and being able to breathe underwater, the near-death experiences I've heard. Third person. Wow. And then other people said when they came out, their clothes were completely
dry.
Yes.
Dry. Yes. Yeah. Totally dry.
As a matter of fact, cool. One lady, she said she was being taken through a tour of heaven by her brother who had died years earlier. And they got to a stream and she said, well, how are we going to cross this? And he said, well, we can just instantaneously think about being on the other side. We'll be there, or we can walk through it, or we can float over it. How do you want to do it? So you have a choice of how you want to travel, apparently.
I love that. I've heard that actually before. I didn't experience it, but I've heard that.
Well, thank you. Sharon, tell us about something that may have surprised you, or something you learned in heaven that was sort of a shocker or kind of neat or unusual.
Well, there were several things. First, seeing my two baby brothers who had died when they were, I was only a year old when the one died and 2 years old when the second one died. So seeing them and recognizing them and them recognizing me, and they were fully grown men at this point, So it was like the most wonderful family reunion. And I kept telling them, oh my gosh, Dad would be so proud of you. You look just like Dad when he was a young man. And it was so amazing. And then the second thing was when I had my life review, I didn't get judged. And I didn't judge me because I didn't know I was supposed to. So it was over like a snap of a finger. And there was nothing but pure love, just pure love. And no judgment. And then the other thing was when I had the conversation with God, and he said, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I was clueless, totally blonde moment. And it just went right over my head. I had no idea what he was talking about. And so he was so patient and he was so calm. And so he asked me the question 3 times and I still couldn't even answer it. And he was showing me, what it would be like to be just him and me and nobody else. And it didn't hit me until many years after the NDE that it is always just you and him and nobody else.
Wow.
And the other thing, something came out of my mouth when I was trying to ask him or answer his question. I've never seen the Quran. I've never read the Quran. Don't know anything about Islam at all. And I quoted, God, your 100th name in the Quran is God is everywhere, God is nowhere, and God is in me. And that's a really huge concept. To the word is A-N-A and Ana, there's a little slash over the other A, but that's the word that means the phrase that I said. And that shocked me that something that intelligent would come out of my mouth. and then and to actually understand what that meant, and then at the end of my NDE being shown future world events by the angels that took me to the lake. So there was multiple things that I learned about God and about heaven, and I had no idea. I was like a feather on the breath of God. I was just floating along, going through it, but it was all very shocking. And the very, very first thing was that I had clothes on, and I was like, thank you, God, I have clothes on. When I came out of my body and I went to heaven, I had the clothes on that I died in. And because I thought everybody, you're born naked with nothing and you die naked with nothing. And I didn't. I had clothes on, and I was grateful for that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that.
Your book.
I named my book, I took my clothes because the first NDE I ever heard, he was naked the whole time. And, he was kind of embarrassed. And you embarrassed when a dog walks down the street with no clothes? No, that's just what a dog looks like. Well, that's just what a human looks like, So, and you mentioned being surprised by meeting relatives, all grown up. A lot of near-death experiencers meet relatives. I recall one woman, she said that she got to heaven and this little 10-year-old girl walked up to her and says, "Hi, Mommy." And the woman said, "No, sweetie, I'm sorry. I'm not your mother. You're mistaken. I don't have any children." And she said, "Oh, yes, you do. I'm the child you aborted." And of course, the woman started to cry because when she was very young, I think she said she was 16, she had had an abortion and felt guilty. She had killed her own child, and here the child was alive and well. And she starts crying, and her daughter says, "Mommy, it's okay. Don't cry. I forgave you. And I really like it up here. It's fine." And so, yeah, people meet a sibling that was a result of a miscarriage. One little girl met her great grandfather. And when her relatives showed her pictures of her great grandfather, she says, "No, that's not him. That's not him." And it was only later when she saw a picture of her great grandfather when he was young, she said, "Oh, that's him." So, yeah, a lot of people meet relatives they didn't know they had, or relatives they had never met that were dead long before they were born. And of course, pets as well is very common. People meet their pets in heaven and can communicate with them. Yeah, it's an interesting place. Now, I know Tamara's got another thing coming up in about 17 minutes. So we have time, I think, for one more question to go the rounds with maybe one or two more questions.
Yeah. I was going to mention about, is this a good time real quick before I mention the spiritual awakenings thing? That's in the morning. Do you mind if I say that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about
real quick announcements, and then we'll end on the Jesus, because I want to end on Jesus. Okay. So tomorrow I have at 1:00 at Spiritual Awakenings International, I'm doing a hour-long talk, and then we have question and answer afterwards on my 6 near-death experiences and my spiritual experiences in my time with Jesus. And I will have also a message with that too. So, but I get more in depth than I have before on things because it's more of I'd say professional crowd. So join me. It's free, but you have to register, and that's spiritualawakeningsinternational.org. So you have to register there. So I would love your support. And again, I'm going to get a little bit more personal, a little nervous about that, but Jesus is pushing me to do it. And I think that we should, when we feel sometimes we need to do these things when we're pushed out of our comfort zone, especially if we know it's in our best interest. Anyway, I'll put it down at the bottom. And then, there was a couple questions, David, if you could, because I knew I didn't want to go past 7:30 because I got to do this thing for tomorrow, but I could talk Jesus like for hours. He actually told me to do it longer. He said, with all of you, you've got to do it longer. So, but there was a couple questions in the chat. I don't know if,
all right, let's take some of those.
If we could quickly do a couple of these that came up. There was one that was, okay, hold on. It is, okay. One was about somebody asked about reincarnation. That was one. And what our thoughts about living forever. I mean, look, that was one that came up. So does anyone feel about that? Would they answer that? I would love to get your thoughts too, David.
All right. Well,
I'm pulling it up. Let me pull that thing up let me find it where that question was. And I thought, boy, I guess we should answer that.
All right, well, I'll address it as sort of the summary of what I've heard from all the near-death experiences, and then we
Okay.
can go, get your input. So
Okay.
my understanding of it after hearing all these people talk about it is just as a human being enjoys having a different experience by watching a really good movie, that you're really into, or maybe reading a really good book to have a different experience, a soul enjoys incarnating into a physical reality to experience a certain life for the purposes of learning and experiencing and growing. And again, it's physical life, as difficult as it is, we can experience certain things that are not possible in heaven. And you learn very quickly through the experiences down here. So an example would be if you're trying to teach your very young child not to touch the hot stove, there's two ways to do it. You can tell them very slowly, over time, hey, don't touch that. Every time they go to grab, touch the stove, you take their hand away, don't touch that, it's hot. Or you can let them learn the fast way, which is not pleasant, and let them touch the hot stove one time. They'll never do it again. So physical life is kind of like that experience, like we're going to learn quickly, sometimes the hard way, what's the best way to really grow love? Maybe experience the opposite of love and experience fear, and then you really appreciate love. But that's my basic understanding of it. But what are your thoughts? Let's start with Sharon.
My thoughts are, I can't see
Reincarnation.
the question.
Yeah,
Okay.
Reincarnation and what it's about, what it means.
I wasn't raised in knowing anything about reincarnation. I never even knew what that word meant. I was taught what that means, and I don't know if I was actually taught just what the concept was, or if I was taught that it actually does happen. So my understanding is that you don't have to come back. And to cover myself, I told Jesus, I said, if that is real, I want you, and I even get the inclination at all to want to come back here and do this again, I want you to tie me to a rock and sit on top of me. I don't want to come back. But my understanding is that it's an agreement between the soul and God, and they make that decision together. It's not something that you just, oh, I guess I'll go back and do this again, and poof, there you are. It doesn't work that way. From what, I was taught, you go through a lot of training, you see the different lives, so you pick them out, you see what's going to happen, you agree to it, you know.
I've heard you even choose your parents.
Yeah.
Choose the family. Yeah.
And so I would want the same parents. I love my parents, I wouldn't want anybody. And no, I don't want to be be the mom and have my mom be my daughter. I know. But I learned that there's no time in heaven, and it's only time that we know is here. So what we might think of 2 or 3 minutes in heaven might seem like an eternity, but it's really not. Does that make sense? Did I say that
Yeah,
right?
I've heard that. I've heard that these physical lives compared to our eternal nature is like the blink of an eye, just, very similar to watching a movie. It's a very short thing and then it's over with. It seems like a long time here. And I so much related to what you said. I first found out from near-death experiences, wait a minute, I not only chose to come down here, I sort of applied and wanted to do this. What the heck was I thinking?
I know. I ask myself that all the time.
Yes, don't let
wrong
me do
with
this
you
again.
You too, Rina.
What are your thoughts, Rina, on multiple lives and reincarnation?
Well, I mean, I always go scripturally about this kind of thing. And because in the book of Hebrews, it says you're only appointed once to die. So, to me, scripturally, that's what it says, and that's what it means. And it's kind of interesting because when you consider it's in the book of Hebrews, does that mean that before that book was written, it could happen? I don't know. I don't know. I just wonder. These are just questions I think about. So I don't perceive that happens now, but it may have happened at some earlier point in the game before God actually had it written in law, in word. Because when the word is written, it now becomes law, becomes formal. So, but we do have an eternal nature. I mean, we were with God from the foundation of the world, and like you said, we've made these agreements, and so I don't understand it right now. But I'm sure it'll make more sense later, when we're all out of here and back up there. I'm like, yeah, I agreed to this, huh? Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I grew up Christian and learning the Bible, and I was confused by that too, because I remember that verse in Hebrews, but I also remember the one where Jesus is talking about John the Baptist, and he says, if you can accept it, this was Elijah who is to come. True. And one of the guys I interviewed, Christian Andresen, who died in a dentist chair from an overdose of pain medication and anesthesia, he was shown that during the Council of Trent, when they were putting the Bible together, the Catholic Church deemed that the information on multiple lifetimes was inappropriate and thrown out. So if he is correct, maybe it's part of it, and it just was thrown out because these people didn't want the general public knowing about it for some reason. I don't know. But I mean, I personally have had a couple of memories of other lifetimes, more feelings than memories. And I know some people, when they had their life reviews, saw other lifetimes as well. So maybe that was in the past. I don't know. I've heard from near-death experiencers. One said, if you're here on this planet, that means you're a daredevil soul. You have a lot of experience. You've been short and tall and rich and poor and homely and good looking, gay and straight. You've given birth. You've killed and died on the battlefield. You've, died in almost every natural or violent means possible. You've had many experiences. A couple have said things like, if you were to take the average human, and, there's no time in heaven, but if you were to put all these lives in the temporal terms, the average human's around 1 million years old. And, who knows if it's true? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Tamara?
Okay, well, I'm the wild card here. So when I would say 32, 34, I took this Dianetic seminar, whatever, and I went immediately into my prenatal, and then I thought, this is cool stuff. So I signed up and I started getting past life. I was like, this is crap. I didn't even believe it. Okay. At all. I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. Like, I was really indifferent about it. I ran my medieval time. I ran exactly where I live. Exactly. I've now run over 330 some hours of past life, including other planets with details and machinery and things that have not been invented. And the thing is, the way I look at it, what Jesus tells me about the flowers and so forth, I don't see a problem with this. I have no conflict with this at all, because man, this is the way, okay, I know maybe a little controversy here. This is just where I am, right? Where I am is that the Bible is channeled by man. I know God is in control of things, but God lives within us. And I asked Jesus about things. He said, the flowers pollinate. He said, they come back. The trees come back. Everything comes back. He said, you live forever. Why we chose to be here now, I'm like, Lord, help me. I don't know. Because there are other solar systems and places that are vibration, right, Kelly? She's my Lemurian expert and love leader. Adriana, come on now. She's getting her DNA activation. But the thing is that there are other solar systems that are a higher vibration of love and light. And this is not. This is duality. There's war. There's hate. There's this. There's that. And we know why we chose here is to bring people to love, to God, to let them know that they are loved. But we can't die. Now, why'd we choose to come back now? I mean, it's so much better over there, to be honest. I don't know. But we can't stop creation. We are part of the creation. We are part of God. But I have seen these in detail with evidence. And so what does it all mean? And I think we have different bodies on different planets happening right now. And I think a part of us is in heaven. Jesus can be in multiple places. Sharon can see him. Rina can see him. And I can see him. And David, you can see him. And all at the same time. And he said, you can do the same things I can. I think that it might blow our minds, but I think we're a lot bigger than just this singular little teeny old life. I think it's so big that we have to open our brains up a little bit, and our Jesus did want me to tell something tonight. He reminded me just now. He said, talk about labels. He wanted me to say this. I'm going to say it again tomorrow because it's really important to him. He said, do not label yourself. Do not judge yourself. It's not so much labeling others. We know what that is, right? But he said, when you label your others, you label yourself. But he said, not to live in fear, but to follow him and instruction, what he gives. But that there are so many traps within this world set by man, and so many lies that you can't just believe things automatically. You need to, test all spirits, have discernment, ask if something is true or not. And look, I don't like bad things. I don't like looking at things that are unpleasant, but I want the truth. And sometimes the truth is shocking. And I think that this is such a blink of an eye and singularity. We're just going to hang out there with him forever. I mean, if I had any sense, I'd do that. But if he wants my help, I'll go back to the Milky Way. If he wants, I'll do anything he wants me to do. He is eternal. And he's all. I know one thing, even with the star seeds they call Sananda, is still Jesus. I don't know why they do, but they do. They still think in the order of things, he's top dog. So I'm like, I'm cool with the star seeds. I mean, I don't, there's an order to things. Like there's an order on earth. There's an order over there. I just think that we can't die. I know that sort of sucks for some people. And I think there's our soul, and our soul's progression is a very deep thing between you and God. But the fact is, in reality, we probably all know each other a lot.
Oh, yes. I've heard that from near-death experiencers, that on the other side of the veil, we all know each other. Well, I think we're just about out of time. Rina, Sharon, Tamara, thank you so much for your time tonight and your input and your wisdom and your loving, compassionate words and ideas. I'm always uplifted by the messages that near-death experiencers bring back. And for the three of you and for the listeners as well, I think an important thing to say is that anytime you're out on the front with a new idea, like Copernicus that I mentioned, there's going to be people that think you're crazy, but the kind of people that would come into a YouTube channel like this to be interviewed, and the kind of people that would listen to it and take it to heart, you are the ones who are holding the light and leading humanity to a higher level of consciousness. And so keep going. Don't give up the faith. And when people call you crazy, remember you're in good company with some of the great discoveries of the world.
Wow.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Much love to everybody. Fantastic. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Love you guys.
And have a Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry
Bye.
Christmas.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Love you guys.